The sun had just begun to rise over the small town of Clearwater when Elena Martinez sat at her kitchen table, staring at an old photo album. In her hands rested a picture of her daughter, Sophia, at only 5 years old, smiling with 2 missing teeth. It was the same smile that had once given Elena the strength to work double shifts, to skip meals so her daughter could eat, to sacrifice her own dreams for a future she believed Sophia deserved. Life as a single mother had never been easy. Elena's husband had left when Sophia was only a toddler, leaving Elena to face the crushing weight of bills, long nights, and the judgmental eyes of neighbors who whispered about the abandoned woman. Yet despite the pain, Elena had carried herself with quiet dignity. She sold handmade dresses at the local market, cleaned offices late into the night, and still found time to braid Sophia's hair every morning before school. Sophia grew up watching her mother's sacrifices, but as the years passed, something changed. The bond that once felt unbreakable began to crack. By the time Sophia reached college, she rarely came home. Phone calls became shorter, visits less frequent. Elena tried not to take it personally. Children grew, lives moved on. But deep inside, she felt the distance sharpening like a knife. Still, when the invitation to Sophia's wedding arrived, Elena's heart fluttered with hope. The embossed card with golden letters read, "Sophia Martinez and Daniel Harper invite you to share in their joy." Elena traced her finger over her daughter's name, whispering it softly, as if to remind herself it was real. For a moment, she imagined that maybe this wedding would be a chance for healing, for closeness, for recognition of all the years she had given. In the days leading up to the ceremony, Elena prepared as though it were her own celebration. She worked extra hours to buy a pale lavender dress she thought Sophia would like. She practiced walking in modest heels, even though she hadn't worn them in years. At night, she rehearsed what she might say to Sophia. "I'm so proud of you. You've become everything I dreamed you would be." But despite her excitement, Elena couldn't shake the small, gnawing doubts. The last time she and Sophia had spoken, their conversation had ended in tension. Sophia had said something Elena could never forget. "Sometimes I feel like you hold me back, Mom. Like you want me to owe you for everything." Those words had broken her, though she never showed it. She simply replied, "I only ever wanted to see you happy." On the morning of the wedding, Elena looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair, now streaked with silver, was styled in a neat bun. Her lavender dress flowed gently around her frame. And though her eyes revealed years of weariness, there was also pride. She carried a small gift bag with a delicate necklace she had saved for years, a piece that once belonged to her own mother. She hoped Sophia might wear it one day, maybe even pass it down. As she left her modest apartment, Elena whispered a quiet prayer. "Please, let today be the day we start over." But little did she know, this day would not unfold the way she imagined. The wedding she believed would be a bridge to her daughter's heart would instead expose wounds too deep to ignore. And in front of every guest, something was about to happen that would change everything. But what happened at the wedding that turned Elena's hopes into heartbreak? You won't believe the shocking moment that unfolded in front of everyone. Stay with this story, and don't forget to like, share, and tell us in the comments. Have you ever sacrificed everything for someone who later turned away from you? The wedding hall was dazzling, filled with the sweet fragrance of white roses and the soft glow of chandeliers. Guests in elegant attire chatted happily, their laughter echoing across the marble floor. Elena stood quietly at the entrance, clutching her small gift bag, her heart pounding as she searched for her daughter among the crowd. When she finally spotted Sophia in her gown, Elena's breath caught. The dress was magnificent, a cascade of ivory satin and lace that shimmered as she moved. Her veil floated lightly around her shoulders, and her smile was radiant. Yet when her eyes met Elena's, the warmth faded almost instantly. "Mom, you came," Sophia said flatly, stepping closer. Her voice carried no trace of joy, only restraint, as if Elena's presence were an inconvenience rather than a blessing. "Of course I came," Elena whispered, her eyes glistening. "This is your big day. I wouldn't miss it for the world." Before Sophia could respond, Daniel the groom approached with an easy smile. "Mrs. Martinez, we're so glad you're here," he said. gently taking Elena's hand. His kindness immediately softened the moment, but Sophia's expression tightened. She quickly pulled Daniel aside, whispering something Elena couldn't hear. Guests glanced toward the three of them, curiosity sparking in their eyes. Moments later, as the ceremony was about to begin, Sophia made a startling move. With all eyes on her, she turned to Elena and said in a firm, almost cold voice, "You shouldn't be here." The word struck Elena like a thunderbolt. She blinked, confused, her heart racing. "What do you mean?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. "I mean," Sophia continued, her tone sharper, "this is my wedding and I don't want you here embarrassing me. You've always tried to make everything about you, and I won't let you ruin this day." Gasps rippled through the room. Some guests exchanged shocked looks, others whispered behind their hands. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Her knees wobbled, and for a moment, she thought she might collapse. Embarrassment flooded her. She could feel every pair of eyes on her, the pitying ones, the judgmental ones, the ones that silently asked why a daughter would speak to her mother this way. She wanted to disappear, to vanish into thin air, but she stood frozen, clutching the little gift bag to her chest. "Sophia," Elena finally managed, her voice breaking. "I worked so hard for this day. For you. I never wanted to ruin anything. I just wanted to see you happy." But Sophia's expression remained hard. "Then you'll leave," she said coldly. "That's how you can make me happy today." The silence in the room was unbearable. Elena's heart shattered, each beat echoing louder than the last. Her eyes welled with tears, but she refused to let them fall in front of everyone. Slowly she turned toward the door, each step heavier than the last. She could hear the whispers swirling behind her. "Did you hear that?" She kicked out her own mother? How could she? There must be more to the story. Elena's hands shook as she reached for the handle of the grand wooden doors. She thought of the necklace in the bag, the one she had saved for so long. She thought of all the nights she had prayed for Sophia's future, all the sacrifices she had made in silence. And now, after everything, her daughter had cast her aside in front of strangers. But just as Elena was about to step outside, a strong voice broke through the heavy silence. "Wait." It was Daniel. The groom's words rang across the hall, halting Elena in her tracks. The crowd turned toward him, their faces filled with confusion. Daniel's expression was unreadable, but his tone carried a weight that made even Sophia flinch. And in that moment, the entire wedding shifted. What did Daniel say that stunned not only Sophia but every single guest in the room? His reaction would change the course of the wedding forever. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Every pair of eyes shifted from Elena's trembling figure at the door to Daniel, who now stood in the center of the hall, his voice echoing with quiet authority. "I said wait," he repeated, walking slowly toward Elena. His gaze was steady, his jaw clenched, but there was no anger in his eyes, only a deep, undeniable conviction. Elena turned to face him, confused and humiliated, unsure whether he meant to defend her or simply add to the rejection. Sophia, however, stiffened. Her grip tightened around her bouquet, her lips pressing into a thin line. Daniel stopped a few steps away from Elena and spoke clearly, his words ringing through the hall. "Mrs. Martinez has every right to be here, and if anyone should be leaving, it isn't her." The crowd gasped. Whispers buzzed instantly, the sound of shocked disbelief rippling like a wave. Elena blinked, hardly believing what she had heard. Sophia's face flushed red with fury. "Daniel, what are you doing?" she hissed. "This is my wedding, and I don't want her here. She's always been—" "Enough," Daniel cut her off firmly. "Do you even hear yourself right now? You're humiliating your own mother in front of everyone who came to celebrate you. Do you know what kind of woman she is? Do you know how much she sacrificed for you?" His voice grew stronger, filled with a passion no one expected to hear from the groom. He looked around at the stunned guests, then back at Sophia. "This woman," he said, pointing gently toward Elena, "worked herself to the bone so you could stand here today in this beautiful dress, at this beautiful wedding. She is the reason you had food, education, a roof over your head. She is the reason you are who you are. And instead of honoring her, you've chosen to disgrace her in front of everyone. Elena felt her breath catch. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain this time, but from the shock of being defended, something she hadn't experienced in years. Her trembling hands tightened around the gift bag, her heart aching at Daniel's words. The guests were no longer whispering. Many of them had tears in their eyes. Some nodded in agreement, others looked at Sophia in disbelief. An older woman in the front row muttered, "I raised my children differently. This is shameful." Sophia, visibly shaken, tried to regain control. "Daniel, you don't understand. She always made me feel guilty, like I owed her everything. I just wanted today to be about me, not about her." But Daniel shook his head firmly. "Sophia, you don't get it. Today isn't about you alone. A wedding isn't just about one person. It's about family, about love, about respect. If you can't honor the woman who gave you life, how do you expect us to build a future together?" The words struck like thunder. Sophia's face paled, her hands trembling around the bouquet. For the first time, she seemed to realize that her actions were not just cruel. They were exposing something deeper, something Daniel could no longer ignore. Elena stood frozen, torn between relief and fear. Daniel's defense had brought light to years of silent suffering, but it had also placed her daughter in a position she might never forgive. And yet, as she looked at Daniel, Elena couldn't help but wonder, why was he speaking with such passion, such fire, as if this moment mattered more to him than even the vows he was about to take? The atmosphere in the hall shifted again. What had started as a wedding celebration was now turning into a reckoning, one that would determine not only the fate of the ceremony but the very future of everyone involved. What would Daniel reveal next? And how would Sophia react to being confronted in front of everyone? The truth was about to surface, and it would change everything. The hall was suspended in silence, broken only by the nervous shuffling of guests and the faint hum of the music that had been abruptly cut off. All eyes were locked on Sophia and Daniel, the bride and groom standing at a crossroads in front of everyone they knew. Daniel took a step closer to Sophia, his voice softer now, but every word was deliberate. "Sophia, I've listened to the way you've spoken about your mother for months," he confessed. "I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just nerves or stress. But today I see it for what it is, and I can't stand by while you throw away the very person who gave everything for you." Elena's chest tightened. She wanted to step forward, to stop this before it ruined everything, but her legs refused to move. She could barely process what was happening. Her humiliation had suddenly become a public trial, with her daughter at the center. Sophia's cheeks burned with shame and anger. "Daniel, this is my wedding. You're supposed to support me, not embarrass me in front of everyone." But Daniel didn't flinch. "You're wrong," he said firmly. "A husband isn't meant to blindly support his wife when she's wrong. He's meant to help her see the truth, even when it's painful." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some guests nodded approvingly, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether this was still a wedding or a dramatic unraveling of vows before they were even spoken. Elena finally found her voice. "Please," she whispered, her hands trembling, "don't fight because of me. I'll leave if that's what Sophia wants. I don't want to ruin her happiness." But Daniel turned to her, his expression softening. "You've done nothing wrong. The only person who should be ashamed today is the one who tried to cast you out." The words struck Sophia like a slap. Tears welled in her eyes, though whether from anger, humiliation, or regret, no one could tell. She glanced at the guests, saw the disappointment in their faces, and felt the crushing weight of judgment pressing down on her. A young cousin whispered audibly, "How could she treat her own mom like that?" Another guest shook his head, muttering, "If she can't respect her mother, how will she respect her husband?" The murmurs grew louder, and Sophia's composure cracked. "Stop it," she cried, her voice trembling. "All of you, stop looking at me like I'm a monster. You don't know what it's like. You don't know how it feels to always be reminded of everything she gave up, like I could never live my own life without carrying her sacrifices on my back." Her words echoed painfully, revealing the deep resentment she had hidden for years. Elena's heart ached as she realized her daughter's bitterness wasn't born in a day. It had been festering, growing quietly in the shadows of all those years of sacrifice. Daniel's expression softened, but his voice was resolute. Sophia, gratitude is not a chain, it's love. Your mother didn't give up her life to imprison you. She did it because she believed in you, because she loved you more than herself. And if you can't see that, then maybe we need to ask ourselves if this marriage should even go on. The guests gasped again, this time louder, their whispers turning into open discussion. Some cried, some shook their heads, and others looked at Elena with newfound respect. Sophia's bouquet slipped from her hands and fell to the floor with a dull thud. She stood frozen, her face pale, her eyes wide as the weight of Daniel's words settled over her. Elena felt her own tears finally spill over. She had come expecting a quiet seat at the back of the wedding, perhaps a smile from her daughter, maybe even a hug. Instead, she had become the center of a storm, one that was forcing everyone, especially Sophia, to face truths they had long ignored. And yet, deep down, Elena sensed this was far from over. Because Daniel's next decision would not only decide the fate of the wedding, but also the future of their family itself. Would Daniel go through with the marriage, or had Sophia's actions revealed too much for him to ignore? The next moment would be the most shocking of all. The silence in the hall grew unbearable, as if time itself had frozen. Sophia stood trembling, her wedding gown heavy on her shoulders, while Daniel's words still hung in the air like an unspoken verdict. The guests waited, breathless, for what would come next. Daniel finally turned back toward Elena. His expression was filled with respect, the kind a son might have for a mother who had carried the weight of the world for him. He gently reached for the gift bag still clutched in her trembling hands. "What's this?" he asked softly. Elena swallowed hard. It was meant for Sophia. It belonged to my mother. I thought maybe one day she could wear it, or pass it down." Daniel slowly opened the bag and pulled out the delicate necklace, its silver chain glinting under the chandelier's light. He held it up for everyone to see, then looked at Elena with sincerity. "This necklace," he said, his voice steady, "is not just jewelry. It is a symbol of love, of sacrifice, of history carried through generations. And today, it should not be rejected. It should be honored." He then turned to Sophia. His voice grew firm again. "If you cannot wear this necklace with pride, if you cannot honor the woman who gave it to you, then I need to ask myself if I can truly walk forward with you as my wife." The hall erupted in whispers. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she covered her mouth with her hand. Sophia's body shook as she looked between her mother and Daniel, her pride crumbling under the weight of her own choices. Finally, her voice cracked. I'm sorry, Mom." The words were quiet, almost broken, but they pierced Elena's heart. After years of distance, resentment, and silence, those 3 words were more powerful than she could have imagined. Sophia collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "I was angry. I thought if I pushed you away I could prove I was strong on my own. But I see now. I was blind. You're the reason I'm standing here. Without you, none of this would exist." Gasps and tears filled the room as Elena rushed forward, lifting her daughter into her arms. For the first time in years they held each other, their tears mingling, their hearts beating in painful but healing unison. The guests rose to their feet, many applauding, others wiping their eyes. What had begun as a moment of shame transformed into one of the most powerful displays of reconciliation anyone had ever witnessed. Daniel knelt beside them, placing the necklace gently around Sophia's neck. "Now," he said softly, "you wear it not as a burden, but as a reminder of love. A love that built you, shaped you, and will always be with you." Sophia nodded through her tears, holding Elena's hands tightly. "Thank you, Mom, for everything, for never giving up on me even when I turned my back on you." Elena kissed her daughter's forehead, whispering, "I've loved you every day of your life. That will never change." The ceremony resumed, but it was no longer just a wedding. It was a testament to forgiveness, gratitude, and the unbreakable bond between mother and child. The vows exchanged that day were not only between husband and wife, but also between a daughter and her mother, promising a new beginning built on respect and love. And as the night ended, Elena realized something profound. Family isn't perfect, And love doesn't erase all wounds instantly. But true love, the kind that survives betrayal, anger, and years of silence, always finds its way back. This story reminds us that gratitude is the foundation of love, and respect is the bridge that keeps families together. No matter the pain, forgiveness can open doors to healing. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever witnessed a moment where love overcame pride?